Most people assume failure looks dramatic, a big mistake, a public setback, an obvious wrong turn. But for most people, that's not actually how it happens. Progress usually stalls quietly through small habits so ordinary they never even register as a problem. No single one of these habits looks harmful in the moment. That's exactly why they're so effective at holding people back. Here's what most people miss. These aren't habits of lazy people. They're habits of careful people, responsible people, people who think of themselves as disciplined. That's what makes them dangerous. They don't feel like sabotage. They feel like good judgment. Today, we're breaking down 7 of these quiet patterns, the ones that feel completely normal, but slowly and consistently keep people from the life they actually want. The first habit is waiting to feel ready before starting. This feels responsible on the surface. Who wants to act before they're prepared? But for a lot of people, getting ready quietly becomes a permanent state. There's always one more thing to learn, one more condition to meet, one more reason today isn't quite the right day. Think about how many people you know who have been about to start something for years, not because they lack the ability, because readiness has become a moving target that conveniently never arrives. The problem isn't caution itself, it's that readiness is often used as a socially acceptable version of avoidance, one that doesn't feel like avoidance because it looks like diligence. But it goes deeper than that. The mind is protecting itself. As long as you haven't started, you can't fail. The moment you begin, the outcome becomes real, and real outcomes can be judged. Staying in preparation mode keeps everything hypothetical, and hypothetical failure doesn't hurt nearly as much.
The second habit is over-explaining decisions to people who were never going to be affected by them. A lot of people spend enormous energy justifying choices to acquaintances, distant relatives, or people whose opinion has no real stake in the outcome. It feels like communication, but it's often something else, an attempt to preemptively avoid judgment before it even happens. Few people realize this. The amount of explaining someone does is rarely about the decision itself. It's about how uncertain they feel underneath it. Confident decisions don't need an audience. The quiet cost is that this energy never goes toward the decision itself, only toward defending it to people who mostly weren't watching that closely to begin with. You end up performing certainty instead of building it. The third habit is mistaking busyness for progress. Filling a day with tasks feels productive. Answering messages, reorganizing a to-do list, attending every meeting, all of it creates a sense of forward motion, but a lot of that motion is sideways, not forward. This is where things become interesting. The habit isn't laziness, it's the opposite, a kind of constant motion that quietly substitutes for the harder, slower work that would actually move something important forward. Busyness feels good because it's measurable in the moment. You can point to a full calendar and say, "Look how much I did today." But a full calendar and a moved life are not the same thing, and most people don't notice the gap until years have passed. The fourth habit is keeping standards so high that nothing ever meets them, including your own work. This one is often praised as a strength, and in small doses it can be. But when the bar is set so high that finishing something never feels acceptable, work gets delayed, revised endlessly, or never shared at all. Psychology reveals something surprising here. The habit protects against criticism in a strange way. If nothing is ever finished, nothing can ever be judged as finished and imperfect. It's not really about quality, it's about control. An unfinished thing can still be perfect in your imagination. A finished thing has to survive contact with the real world, and that's a risk perfectionism quietly refuses to take.
The fifth habit is treating comfort as a reward you've already earned rather than something you're working toward. This shows up as small permissions, one more day off before starting, one more relaxed week before the harder push begins. Rest itself isn't the problem. Rest is necessary, and anyone telling you otherwise is selling something. The real reason is much deeper. The habit is using the promise of future effort to justify present avoidance over and over until the future point never actually arrives. It's not one decision, it's 100 small ones, each of them reasonable on its own, that quietly add up to a life spent waiting for a version of yourself that never has to show up today. The sixth habit is surrounding yourself primarily with people who validate rather than challenge you. This one is quiet because it feels good. Comfortable relationships, easy agreement, nobody pushing back. But growth usually requires some friction, someone willing to point out a blind spot, question an assumption, or offer a perspective that isn't simply agreement. Without that, it becomes very easy to mistake comfort for confirmation that everything is fine. And here's the part most people don't want to hear. The people who only agree with you aren't necessarily kind. Sometimes they're just avoiding the discomfort of telling you something you don't want to hear, and you end up mistaking their silence for support. The seventh and final habit is measuring your progress only against where you started, never against where you actually want to be. This sounds encouraging, celebrate how far you've come, and it should be celebrated. But when this becomes the only measure used, it can quietly justify staying in the same place far longer than necessary, because compared to the starting point, things always look like they're improving, even when actual movement toward the goal has slowed or stopped. This is where things become interesting. Looking backward always feels good, because the past version of you was, by definition, less developed. But a life spent only looking backward for comparison never has to confront how far there still is to go. It's a quiet way of feeling proud without ever feeling uncomfortable, and discomfort is usually where real growth happens. Here's what ties all 7 of these together. None of them look like failure while they're happening. Waiting to feel ready looks like preparation. Over-explaining looks like communication. Busyness looks like productivity. High standards look like excellence. Delayed rest looks like discipline. Comfortable relationships look like support. And measuring only past progress looks like a healthy mindset. That's exactly what makes these habits so effective at quietly sabotaging progress. Every one of them is disguised as something responsible. Nobody sets out to fail. Most people who stay stuck are doing what looks, from the inside, like the right thing. But the way out isn't dramatic either. It rarely requires a complete personality overhaul or some sudden burst of willpower. It usually starts with something much smaller, noticing which of these 7 patterns shows up most often in your own life and asking an honest question about it. Is this caution, or is this avoidance wearing caution's clothes? Is this a standard, or is this a way to avoid ever being finished? Is this rest, or is this a habit of postponing the harder thing indefinitely? Most people who eventually break one of these patterns don't describe it as a big moment. They describe it as a quiet shift, starting something before they felt fully ready, sharing work that wasn't perfect, saying less to people who were never going to be satisfied anyway. Small, undramatic actions, but repeated enough times, they add up to something that looks, from the outside, like a completely different trajectory. If you recognized 1 or 2 of these in yourself while watching this video, that's not a failure to notice. That's actually the first step most people skip entirely. Most of these habits stay invisible for years simply because no one stops to name them. Naming them is what makes them optional instead of automatic. Once you can see a pattern clearly, it loses some of its grip because you can no longer pretend it's just who you are. This is the quiet difference between people who stay in place for years and people who slowly, steadily move forward. It's rarely about talent, and it's rarely about circumstances. It's about which of these invisible habits they were willing to notice, question, and eventually let go of. This channel is built around exactly this kind of quiet self-understanding, the patterns that shape a life without ever announcing themselves. If this resonated with you, take a moment to think about which one of these 7 hit closest to home and let us know in the comments. If you want more of this, subscribe.
There's more like this ahead.